Allied health professionals, 13 distinct professions, valued for their ability to enhance people's lives. They're adaptable, making them an asset in a health and social care system that's under pressure. Allied health professionals empower people from cradle to grave to live their best life, making the most of their health and well-being. You might meet an allied health professional in lots of different places at different times in your life. They work in people's homes, in community and leisure centres, in schools, in hospitals, in hospices, in prisons, residential and nursing homes. Their skills and expertise make them valuable members of the health and care team, working closely with a range of professionals, organisations and individuals across all settings. The pandemic has shone a spotlight on these professions as they embrace new and transformative ways of working that have reshaped their practice and the lives of people in their care. Quite simply, if you are looking for a rewarding career, we invite you to join one of the most innovative, high-achieving, inspirational groups of professionals in Wales. You can work in each one of the allied health professions as a support worker, making the most of work-based learning and development opportunities. Or you can become a registered professional by completing academic studies. And grant funding is available if you want to stay and work in Wales after training. As an allied health professional, there are so many opportunities that you can make a career which meets your personal strengths, talents and interests. In addition to working directly with people in practice, allied health professionals are leaders in our health and care system. They use research to explore the full potential of their professions and educate future health and care professionals. There are no limits to your ambition. The rewards are great. Every child at school that overcomes a speech problem, every young person supported through a period of high anxiety, every aspiring athlete fitted with a running blade after an accident, every disabled person accessing their workplace successfully, every grandparent supported to live at home, every person who approaches the end of their life will know that you were there when they needed it most. If you're looking to start or develop your career as an allied health professional, or if you think your team could be enhanced by the skills and expertise of an allied health professional and would like to know more, please get in touch.
It is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to our 2022 conference, Extraordinary Times, Extraordinary Practice, 13 Days of AHPs. Because of the pressures of releasing team members from practice for long periods of time, we've structured this year's event differently to allow as many people as possible to pick and mix their sessions. So we'll be hosting daily 1-hour sessions over the 13 days from today, the 23rd of February, through to the 11th of March. Please make sure you've used the Eventbrite link to register. You'll only need to do this once. All of the individual session links are available on the conference webpage, and that can be found on the AHP page of HEOW's website. All sessions will be recorded, and once the recordings have been transcribed and translated, they'll be posted on the conference webpage. So if you can't make a live session, keep an eye out for its recording. Alongside the speakers and discussion sessions, you'll find an online poster gallery with links to relevant media, papers, examples of good practice, and other useful resources. We'll be posting some of the interactive activities like Mentimeter quizzes, polls and Jamboards so that you can still participate after the live session is closed. Please do keep an eye out for the new content on the website and take advantage to get involved and have your voice heard. We hope you enjoy this year's conference. Please do feel free to get in touch with any feedback so we can continue to improve our events for you. Today, I would like to welcome you in particular to the first session, where we'll take a moment to reflect on how far we've come since the AHP Framework was published in 2019. We have an action-packed agenda for you today. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Wendy Wilkinson. I'm Head of AHP Transformation for HEOW. I will be your chair for today's session. Our first speaker today is Julie Rogers, Director of Workforce and OD and Deputy Chief Executive of HIW. Julie is going to present our keynote address, providing a strategic context for the culture of transformation in which AHPs find themselves at present. Our second speaker is Ruth Crowder, Chief Allied Health Professions Officer for Welsh Government, who will be reflecting on how far we've come since the development of the framework. And our final speaker for today is Lisa Flowellen, Director of Nurse and Health Professional Education in HIW. As co-chair of the AHP Programme Board, Lisa offers the perspective as critical friend and provides advice and guidance as to how we can build on our achievements to date and realise the vision in the AHP framework. In today's session, we have a number of interactive activities, so please keep your tech handy so that you can engage when the time is right. And all of our speakers are eager to engage in a conversation about how we can continue to maintain momentum around transforming AHP practice. However, our timings will be tight today, so if you have any questions, please email them through to the AHP group email and we'll collate these for the speakers to be able to respond. In the meantime, please feel free to use the chat function to share thoughts and observations throughout the session. Now it is my great pleasure to welcome our first speaker, Julie.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you for a lovely introduction, and thank you and all your colleagues for arranging this amazing conference. I was really struck about the creativity of it when you talked to me about 13 sessions and 13 professions, and I think it's a fantastic idea and probably one that I might steal for some of the other portfolio areas that we've got going on in HIW. Also love the funky avatars, so well done on creating those. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here this afternoon and to be the first speaker at your conference. It looks, as I said, really exciting and really very, very timely, I think, because the whole system is thinking about how we reset and recover and what life looks like, hopefully post-pandemic. So Wendy set out some of the background to these next few sessions, but I think, you know, this conference gives an opportunity for all of us to celebrate the work of allied health professions and each and every one of you and your colleagues who actually make such a substantial and innovative contribution. And long may that continue and long may it grow. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that in my session. This conference is complementary to the quarterly engagement events that I know that Wendy has been instrumental in getting off the ground and really helping professionals at all levels to engage, feel connected and actually have that sort of sense of common direction and purpose. You've got two fantastic speakers following me, so I will keep to time, Wendy. I know it's a problem when you're chairing, trying to keep those speakers to time, but I should be just about there on the 10 minutes. So they're going to talk to you a little bit more about the kind of detail of the AHP framework and the call to action. So from my perspective, as Wendy said, I thought I'd start telling you a little bit about HIW. Move on to the wider context for the Allied Health Professions Framework, some reflections on our experience of leading the delivery of the programme over the last year, and then finally highlight some things that we've worked on collectively in HIW with partners too, that we're incredibly proud of before we hand the baton over to Ruth. So if we could move on to slide 2, please, Lauren, that'd be wonderful. So just a very brief slide here. We've been in existence since 2018 with the National Body for Health Workforce Education and Training. I think some people think we just do education and training, but as I hope as you go through this, you'll see that workforce transformation is also one of our core strategic functions. And our purpose is to develop a workforce that delivers excellent care to patients, service users and excellent population health. So we see ourselves as very much contributing to the work of the 7 health boards and the trusts in Wales as part of the system. Thanks, Lauren. If we can move on to slide 3. So some of the context, a little bit of a busy slide, but hopefully this will be very familiar to you and you'll be aware of the government has long been talking about the shift from hospital-based care and treatment into health, wellbeing and prevention, and you'll have had conversations about your role as allied health professionals in actually supporting that transition. So the Welsh Government Strategy A Healthier Wales, which you can see the little boy on the left there on the cover of that document, emphasises the importance of a focus on prevention and wellbeing, and as the diagram illustrates, that services shift, as I've already said. It emphasised also the importance of professionals working at the top of their licence, of harnessing the potential of multidisciplinary approaches and teams. And I know that's something that's very much embedded at the heart of the AHP framework. And particularly, I think that that document did give a great opportunity for AHPs to perhaps step more into the spotlight and for take on new and enhanced roles. So in 2019, with our partners in Social Care Wales, we led the development of the first workforce strategy. It's a 10-year workforce strategy for health and care, and it was published in October 2020, and that sets out the vision for the workforce in Wales across health and care, and the 7 themes that will contribute to the delivery of an inclusive, engaged, sustainable and flexible workforce by 2030. So a 10-year ambition linked to the, the messages and the vision in a healthier Wales. At the same time in 2019, Ruth Crowder and colleagues were working on the AHP framework, and that was indeed launched in 2019. And Ruth, I know, will talk to you a little bit more about that later. But just to put this into context, these are 3 separate documents, but at their heart, they've got a real common core, and that's the quadruple aim. And if you look at any of those 3 documents, you will see our ambitions really are aligned to improving population health and well-being, the prevention focus again, improving the experience and quality of care for individuals and families, increasing value, so a big focus on how we're using our money, how we're looking at improvement, innovation, best practice, eliminating waste. And then the 4th aim for Wales, which is enriching the wellbeing, capability and engagement of the health and social care workforce. So lots of commonality in the context, which gives us a clear sense of direction. Thank you, Lauren. So let's have a little look at the workforce strategy for Wales then. It's a busy slide, but I know the slides are going to be available to you afterwards. So you'll be able to use this as a bit of a resource pack. We actually won an award for this in 2021 for our work in partnership. There were over 1,000 people who actually helped us develop the workforce strategy from a range of backgrounds, including service users and the general population. And if you want to know more about the workforce strategy, then head over to the HIW website. You can download it for free there, no charge. So yeah, if anybody's interested in seeing it, there's more information there. We published this document in the middle of a pandemic, and that might seem a bit of a crazy thing to do, but actually the more the pandemic went on, the more that we felt the actions that we put into this workforce strategy were so relevant and would really help with the reset and the recovery. So we published it in 2022, and at the same time we put some of our work on steroids. So we really pushed hard on compassionate and collective leadership, and I'll say a bit more about that in a moment. But also our wellbeing work, our national role to support the wellbeing network for health and social care, also the curation of the resources that people have got access to through the HIW website. So lots of really important work there. As I said, this workforce strategy provides a strategic framework. There are 32 actions in there for the first 3 years of the 10-year framing. It gives us a framework, and we've used that to influence the work we've done recently as a team on the mental health workforce plan, which is currently out to consultation. We're also going to be looking at it to develop the nursing workforce plan, to do some work with dental and pharmacy. But I do know that it's also been a key influencer in the shape of the national work programme to deliver the AHP framework. So again, there's a huge commonality to the narrative around where we're trying to move towards and how we might get there, with the workforce strategy helping to shape that. Thank you, Lauren. So HIW are looking forward together, which is obviously the AHP framework. I've just put there the 6 principles from the AHP framework, which I'm sure you'll all be familiar with. We were absolutely delighted to be asked by government to take on this work and for it to become part of the HIW family in April 2021. I think it gives us a real focus to some of the things that we wanted to do with our health professional colleagues, and particularly to tie that in with the health professional education programme. And it was lovely to have the team join us as well. So I think this has been a huge opportunity for us, and I think we've got some reflections which I'm just going to share with you now on the first year in HIW, but I think it illustrates how having this as part of the HIW core business is really helping to sort of connect all the pieces of the jigsaw together. So as we know, the AHP programme of work is a massively ambitious programme. It's designed to transform AHP practice across health and social care in Wales. And the programme itself was developed as a delivery mechanism for taking forward the actions spelt out and the principles in the framework, which are listed here. So in terms of what's happened since the framework came into HIW a year ago, we've shaped the programme, so we've put some clear deliverables around that in agreement with Ruth and colleagues in Welsh Government and other partners to make sure there's strong alignment between the work we're pushing through the strategy and the framework itself. We've been working hard to build a community between the 13 different professions which make up our programme, and consequently this is why we've got the 13 events to showcase some of that work that's been going. Digital communication and engagement has been absolutely vital in the last 2 years, and so we've all learned, new ways of working and different ways of delivering our roles through some really, really challenging times. We've created a communication engagement webpage for the programme, which you can find on HIW's website, and this contains a range of resources and tools as well as updates on the programmes itself. So that's probably about the second or third plug I've made for the HIW website, so do go over there and have a look at it. But also please do give us feedback on the website because it is a work in progress. I'm very keen to take comments on it. There's an AHP programme dedicated page. As I say, you'll find the communications and engagement toolkit, including the digital CV, easy read version, the AHP framework, and lots of messages from our social media activity as well. You can also steal them with pride for free. It's another freebie. We're just the gift that keeps giving today. So lots of stuff there that might help you when sharing practice with your colleagues and increasing awareness of the work that is being done nationally around AHP framework and transformation. Thank you, Lauren. So I'm just going to move us on to the next slide. So this is one of the focused areas, and HIW has got a statutory responsibility for the development of leadership across Wales. So we are looking multi-professional. It's not leadership for the elite, it's leadership at all levels. So from starting point up to the most senior roles. And the model adopted for NHS Wales and being promoted for social care is that of compassionate and collective leadership. So some of you may know about Professor Michael West's work. He is a visiting professor with the King's Fund, but also a long history of academic research, including working with GMC and other professional regulators around how we can be more compassionate and create the cultures in which people want to thrive and want to stay contributing to the health of the population. So that's the philosophy underpinning the leadership approach, and this is something that we're trying to promote very heavily. The slide gives you some examples of the things that we've been doing, and I'm really, really pleased to see that the allied health professionals have actually been joining in their droves to be members of the Gwella portal, which actually supports all of this work. And I know we've got over 300 AHP members who've joined Gwella. We've got a range of AHP leadership networks. We've got a lot of resources about compassionate and collective leaderships, and also some QI resources as well. So for those people who are thinking compassionate sounds a bit pink and fluffy and smelly candles and things like that and soft cushions, it is absolutely not. To be compassionate is really hard. It's one of the toughest things that you can do. So I would really encourage you, if you haven't already, sign up for Gwella, get onto those pages and have a little look. We've got some fantastic examples. I won't call out the health boards, but some real good clinical examples where people are really embracing the compassionate approaches, and that's making a massive difference to their working lives, their colleagues' working lives, and also patient outcomes. And you'll see there that we've got the evidence-based approach sort of logo on this slide, and that really, if you have a look at the stuff that we've got on Gwella, it just shows you the history of about 20 years worth of evidence of improved patient outcomes as well as staff well-being. So we see compassionate and collective leadership as something that will help with recovery, restorative practice after the pandemic. And as I say, I can't push that strongly enough. So have a look at that. In 2021, we saw the first 2 HP candidates join the multi-professional Wales Clinical Leadership Training Fellowship, and we'll be shortly coming out to actually invite people to apply for the next round of those, and we're hoping that we'll get a number of AHPs applying this time and that we'll grow that. We're also about to come out with our multi-professional clinical leadership programme as opposed to the fellowship programme, which again has been tested and developed with a range of professionals, and I think that will give people the opportunity for some personal and professional development, but in a setting where you're working with other colleagues as well. So have a look at those when they come through. I could bang on about leadership for ages. You can probably tell it's my specialist subject, but I'm going to move us on. Hopefully that's given you enough to actually have a look at our website and the Gwella portal in particular. Slide 7, please, Lauren. Okay, so the other area, and again, this is weaved all the way throughout the workforce strategy. This is one of the 7 themes, but also through the AHP framework and the programme of work, is about attracting and recruiting people. And we're really grateful to all of our colleagues in the AHP professions across Wales who've helped us build the material that we've got. So this is a small picture of our Careersville website. It was developed bilingually from the outset. It wasn't developed in English and then translated. It was developed in parallel in Welsh as well as English, and we've got a lot of positive feedback from that because it's quite different in both languages. But at its core, it contains a lot of digital resources and a lot of information. It's a virtual village. We've got avatars, we've got movies, screens, we've got buildings where you can go up into lifts. At the moment, we've launched it with school-aged children, so these were the young people who'd be going on to sort of secondary school. We're looking to make it all age, and so we're working quite heavily with colleagues around the video content. So in relation to AHP colleagues, we're really grateful to everybody who helped us develop it. Colleagues also took part in the launch and were featured throughout the whole event and helped us put together a fantastic set of resources, videos, vlogs and articles. So again, it would be really helpful, I think, to the programme and to us and to yourselves to sort of promote this work. It is available through our website. You can actually find it and you're free to use any of the resources. And if there are things that you think that we could showcase around, why it's so fantastic to work as an AHP in Wales, then please do get in touch with the team, and we're happy to put additional resources on. There's a lot in there on creative therapies as well, dietetics, podiatries, lots of different blogs and articles that you may not have come across. So again, a big resource in the space of attraction and recruitment. Thank you, Lauren. So bit of a whistle stop, lots of stuff going on. Hopefully you can see the sort of golden threads and the connectivities between the different areas. What next is always a really, really key question. The pandemic has really, I think, knocked people off their stride. There's no doubt that, the shift of services into community and that vision for government has set out perhaps has taken a little bit of a kind of a step back because we've had this moment where we've all been joining together to support the response to the pandemic. Having said that, some might argue that the pandemic has provided a real stimulus for change. It's made us think very differently about how we use our staff across Wales, how we contribute as individual professionals, how we actually use digital in a way that's more enabling. So in some ways, it has accelerated the pace of transformation and change. So for me, I think we're in a really, really good position. We've got the workforce strategy, we've got the AHP framework and programme. They've got a common narrative, as well as a set of practical actions to develop our future workforce. I still think we've got a lot to do, hence the long, windy road, but we've got the building blocks in place, and I think if we continue to work together, continue to listen to each other, but most of all, continue to be kind and compassionate together, I think we can do this. So enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you so much for letting me open today, and diolch am wrando.
Thank you so much, Julie. I was sitting here thinking, now how do I sum that up into a snazzy little one sentence kind of segue? But I'm going to leave your words as they are, because it feels like, the one word that comes to mind is catalyst. We are in a position now where we have so many things that have come together, and so thank you so much for your time and your enthusiasm and your support for allied health professionals. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us today. So on that note, and thinking about that long, windy road, I think I would now like to invite Ruth to join us, and let's have a little bit of a stock take, perhaps, and a reflect on where we've been and where we're going. Over to you, Ruth.
Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Lauren. So, long and winding road. I'm not about to burst into a Beatles song. Everybody who knows me will be really pleased to hear. So lovely to be here, and thank you for the opportunity to just, as you say, Wendy, do a stock take and just really to reflect on quite how much we've achieved. As Julie said, we launched this in November 2019. With a real plan for what we would do in the first 2 years. And maybe those 2 years have not quite been what we expected. However, there are some things we've achieved far quicker maybe than we would have done because of the environment we were in. So this really is literally just my thinking on what we've already done, and I'm certainly not capturing everything. So that's what's really exciting. So the framework, thanks Lauren, if we can go to the next slide, was launched at the Primary Care Conference, and it has two core aims. First, that we put citizens are able to achieve outcomes that matter to them and the quality of experience improves. And secondly, that actually collectively, and that means collectively as members of one profession, but also collectively as 13 professions, and as unique individuals embed value-based care, that we're actually working right at the top of our licence to ensure that we deliver to help the people of Wales. Thanks, Lauren. So you've already seen these. I think these core principles are absolutely wonderful at encapsulating the work that's in front of us. So for me, very much those top three align to the first aim. How do we inspire and enable people to lead healthier lives? How are we going to build that resilience and improved health? And the third one has really risen to the top. How are we going to ensure that we are much more accessible, that people know where to find us, know what we're about, and are able to reach us when we need them, and that we respond? And I think that for me is a really core piece of work. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. The second three, numbers 4, 5 and 6, really relate then to what it is we as individuals need to do in order to achieve that first aim and those top three principles. How are we going to ensure we have that strong identity and presence, making sure that we are in the places we need to be, that we're deployed as we need to be, and that actually people are using us in the most valuable way? That leadership is absolutely critical to achieving that, and you've already heard how HCIW is helping us to provide those resources and ensure that we can maximise your skills as leaders. And then again, number 6 has also risen, I think, to the top of our agenda. If we're truly going to make best use of our skills and the reasonably small workforce that we have less than 10,000 registered AHPs in Wales, and that is all 13 professions. Our largest profession, 2,500, our smallest 55. So you can see that we are not a big workforce. So we need to work smart, and we need to work right at the top of our skill set. Thanks, Lauren. So we wrote the framework as a result of a significant amount of engagement with AHPs and our stakeholders. We had a consultation, we had several workshops, but the big event that maybe some of you were at was on the 29th of October 2018 in the Swalex Stadium, when we actually used to do real events and get some nice petit four and patisserie if any of you were there. And we had a wonderful creative minute taker who took these visual minutes for us. And we've used those visual minutes to actually frame some of the priorities in the framework and to keep in front of us the picture of where we're trying to go. Thanks, Lauren. So some of the images were really powerful, and on the day and in the subsequent engagement events, people really drew these out as being part of our core areas of work. And so those images were taken into the framework, and what I'm going to do is actually use those images to just outline some of our achievements to date. So thanks, Lauren. Next. So you said very clearly that we needed to be embedded in primary care if we are to provide better services for people, that we need to be directly accessible and we need to be reached more quickly. Thanks, Lauren. That's brilliant. So some of the things that we've achieved, the framework funding has created a national AHP lead for primary and community care. And we've got really strong working with our DOTs and with our clinical directors and with our primary care and community-based practitioners with the strategic primary care programme. We've got a national leadership group. We've got a whole range of innovative clinical roles across primary care. We've got growing, increasing numbers of services that are directly accessible. And sorry, I am just picking out a couple of examples, and I know that those of you who are not the examples I've picked out will forgive me, but some of these things we really are starting to roll out our direct access across Wales. So the direct access to podiatry and the risk management tool that was developed in Swansea Bay, all managers have now agreed that and is becoming a nationwide process. I have in brackets added our national consultant, AHP in dementia, actually a really, really important role, and she's driven huge leadership in terms of dementia care, but it's in brackets because that's not part of our framework programme. It is part of your influencing and leadership that got that built into the dementia action plan. So really important. Thanks, Lauren. Next. Okay, so you also said that we really needed to be more accessible earlier, that we needed to be working more preventatively, and that public health and our role in improving public health was absolutely critical. So we were a core member of the UK group to develop the UK health professions public health strategy. And thanks, Lauren. Next. But actually, we've done a significant amount of work more widely than that. So we, under the AHP framework, can you go back? Thank you very much. That's perfect. So under the AHP framework, we've also created, alongside the primary care lead, national leads for public health and prevention. And they will be starting in post very soon, which is really exciting. We've also got a national lead for rehabilitation. We've got speech and language therapists in every flying star and in Welsh Government on our speech, language and communication programme, public health dietitians, community falls teams, the work that we are doing across a range of areas to ensure that we are delivering that anticipatory care that we need. And I would again align direct access, early access with improving health outcomes. And at the moment, and I'll particularly flag this one, we're working with the UK and Royal Society of Public Health to undertake a survey on AHPs and work. And I would urge you to complete that survey, please, if you possibly can. They're going to be looking at how they can support us to make sure that we really are engaging with the whole of people's needs in order to maximise their ability to live independently, as A Healthier Wales says, and to make sure that we are enabling people to be economically and socially independent, not just physically and emotionally independent. So please do complete that. Thanks, Lauren. The next one. Okay, the other key priority that you came up with was that we must be able to articulate our value, that we're not very good at explaining what we do, and that we're not often fully understood, and therefore we're not used well. So we said we have to deliver high impact, high quality services, and that we've got to be able to articulate that value. And I think the PROMs and PREMs and value healthcare approach is absolutely critical to doing that. Thanks, Lauren. Wonderful. So HEIW and Wendy have supported us with our consultant AHP forum. We've created that with an AHP leading that as part of the national wider consultant forum. We've got a range of quality improvement leads and quality improvement leads in Public Health Wales, leading on a range of work. We've got a number of national clinical leads. So you're really stepping into both the strategic and operational leadership space, but also the clinical leadership space. Really, really important, and new roles being appointed to all the time. We've also got growing leadership in research, a huge number of AHPs in the research capacity building collaborative. I never say that well. National proms and prems work. I think some of the work that's been going on in developing long COVID proms, long COVID services have really demonstrated the impact that your skills make on helping people to recover and to live well, even with a long-term condition. The National Rehabilitation Framework and guidance, absolutely key piece of work. It was your leadership and your recognition of value that actually started that right at the beginning of the pandemic, and which our rehab leads and our clinical fellows will be updating soon. So what we're seeing as a result of that is a growing demand for AHPs in a wide range of new settings and services. Thanks, Lauren. So we've got a real key role, you said, in enabling people to get back to their own home, and boy, is that an important role as we come out of this pandemic. The numbers of people waiting for services, but also awaiting that community support in order to be discharged, are higher than they've ever been. And the number of innovative services that you've created are really, really impressive. And we literally are hearing people say we need more AHPs. So I think all of these priorities have led us to the point where people are finally understanding how best to use our skills in order to improve health outcomes. We know we've got more to do in terms of prehab and in-hospital work. We know that there is a vital amount of work to do in leading and driving quality through discharge to recover and assess. And I'm sure that you will all have recognised some of the issues that are around in terms of the interim placement, and how we are going to have to find a way of supporting people to ensure we don't do active harm to them if they are not able to return to their place of permanent residence as quickly as we would want. Thanks, Lauren. So you said you need to step up and lead. I won't go through all of these. Julie's already talked about leadership, but I think what really is key is the number of leadership roles and the number of people from the AHP professions stepping outside of profession-specific work and starting to really embed themselves within the whole system. So really, really good. And I would reiterate, please do use the resources that HEIW are providing. In terms of that fifth bullet point down, the executive directors, Wales has now got the first ever in the world director of paramedicine in WAST. That's the kind of thing that you are achieving across Wales, not wholly as a result of the framework, but I think because we've got a clear vision and we all know what it is that we want to be doing. Nice to see the applause, but that's brilliant. Lots of service innovation. Okay, I know, Wendy, I promised you I wouldn't go over, and I have. Next, please, Lauren. I'm not going to talk through this too much, but I wanted to just illustrate that this framework is not standing alone. It has to be part of the wider national programmes. And so what I've done is put this within the context of A Healthier Wales and the National Clinical Framework, which I think is a piece of work you all need to be very embedded in. I know our clinical leads are. That actually we have those three national programmes, planned care, primary and community, urgent and emergency, but we also have national work on mental health and public health, and the framework has to fit into that. And then those 5 triangles at the bottom are real areas that we have to focus on. How and what we do with our workforce, how we're increasing our prevention, that focus on rehab that's in the framework, optimising intervention when people need it, and direct access in primary care. There is so much that we can still be doing, but so much that we've already made a start on. Thanks, Lauren. Okay, one of the big images that I really liked in those visual minutes from our original day was the importance you all laid on the open access to our services, that there has to be a clear gateway to services. And you know, in so many places we have conversations about how do people ever navigate their way around our services. And I think for many people, access to AHPs is far too complex, it's far too slow, it's far too late. So direct access is critical, but more than that, our need to think carefully about our inclusion criteria about who we're turning away and what we're doing. If we're really saying that we want to be involved in primary care, that is about doing today's work today. That is about ensuring that when we spot an issue, even if we're not the right person to help them, that actually we signpost them to the person who is better placed than us, not that we hand them off with yet another referral that goes into a black hole. So I think there's some phenomenal work that we can do. There's huge respect for what you are already doing, huge respect for the impact that we can have. This is our moment to transform and revolutionise our practice. But I don't want you to underestimate that this is going to be hard. This is going to be hard. It is not going to be easy. You are going to have to change things that we've held very dear for a long time. We need to start critically looking at. We need to stop doing the things that don't add value. We need to make sure that we're in the place we need to be. We need to make sure we're accessible, and we need to make sure that we're working to the top of our amazing skills. I think what I've talked about so far has sounded as though I'm only talking about registrants. I'm not. I'm also talking about our phenomenal support workforce and how we support and bring them on and ensure that they are also working at the top of their licence is equally going to be really important. So I'm really passionate about this programme. I'm really thrilled at how much we've done already, but there is so much more to do. And I'm really looking forward to hearing some of your thoughts, some of your views as we move into the next part of the session. Thank you so much, Wendy. And thanks, Lauren, for running the slides.
Thank you, Ruth. So I think we're now at a point in time where we've got a couple of interactive activities that we would like to do, because I think part of the point of this conference is to be able to listen. So we've shared a lot of information so far, and over the next 13 days, there's going to be opportunities for more information sharing and listening. So with an increasing demand on AHPs in new settings with new populations, and having that unique opportunity to use our skills differently, for some of us, that might even mean using skills that we might have learnt at college but haven't necessarily used because the health economy hasn't necessarily had the demand for it. So perhaps we're now in a position where we can reshape things. And I love the idea of that kind of, let's create a revolution. This isn't about, I guess this isn't about being hypercritical of what's going on. This is about adapting and surviving in the changing world. So Lauren, can I ask you to put the first Mentimeter slide up, because we're going to focus on direct access to start with. So if everybody could get your tech, sign into the Mentimeter, and the first question, what I'm really interested in is, when we talk about direct access, sometimes that makes people really take a sharp inhale of breath, and we start thinking, oh, can we do that? So at this point, I want to know what's holding us back. If it's such a good idea, and we're all in agreement that having fewer hoops for the general public of Wales to go through in order to access allied health professionals, if we all believe that that's a good thing, what's stopping us? Give that another minute just in case we've got a few more ideas coming through. These activities will be available online, so that if you've got colleagues who couldn't join us today, you can ask them to please share their thoughts and comments as well. I can see that there's some fairly common ideas here around feeling overwhelming numbers of patients, not having enough staffing. But I'm really interested in some of these kind of pathways and governance concerns and the policies and procedures around this. So this is really helpful. Capacity. There's one that's coming through about unsure understanding of AHP's role in providing their services. That's interesting. Limited resources, slim team, and high demand. Great. So what my initial thought was we would jump to it, how do we overcome this? But actually I want to do something slightly different. So Lauren, would you put the Jamboard up for me, please? So while Lauren is putting that up on the screen, for those folk who haven't used a Jamboard, what I'll ask you to do is follow the link that's in the chat bar, and it will open the Jamboard in your Google or your search engine on your laptop or your phone. when you log in, it's like using a virtual sticky note poster kind of thing. So over on the left-hand side here, you can click for the little sticky note, bring it across onto the screen, and you can type in your text. So what we're looking for is for those folk who do offer direct access, and for those folk who are thinking about it but are perhaps a little bit hesitant, could I ask you to start thinking about what are the pros and cons for the person who accesses the services? Why would we even bother with direct access? So we know that there's a general feel that it's a good idea, but why? How do we? Because I suspect some of these answers are going to help us with finding the solutions to how we overcome the challenges that you mentioned earlier. It's really interesting that actually we've got so many more pros to the couple of cons, and the cons marry really well with some of those anxieties we had from the previous activity. So keep those coming through. In the interest of time, I'm going to move us on to page 2. So thinking about then, because we can always come back to these activities online. So thinking about the next page then, what are the pros and cons to the person who's providing the services? So that's our clinical teams, that's our professionals that are out there on the front line. Why would it be good for us to be offering direct services? What would it mean in terms of, the quality of referrals, I guess? Again, we seem to have a greater number of pros than cons, which is interesting. Brilliant. And again, going up to the top of your screen and clicking forward, if we think about from the manager's perspective or the organization's perspective, what would the pros and cons of direct access be for our organizations? What fantastic. Really great. Thank you, everybody, for your engagement with that. Again, due to timing, I'm likely to just to move us on. So at the moment, as I said, these links are going to be available. They're going to stay open. Have a little bit of a think, have a reflect, come back to it, share the link with colleagues and friends. This is something that we're wanting to make sure we keep live, keep the conversation going, because I think there is going to need to be a conversation about how we work more around direct access. But before I invite Lisa in, there's a couple of quick Mentimeter questions I'd like to ask you all around that top of license working. So it's a phrase that's used in a lot of policy, but what does it actually mean to people? So when we first started hearing it, I thought, license? I don't have a license. I mean, I've got a license to drive, but that doesn't mean what we're talking about here. So I guess I'm really interested now, what does this term mean to you? Does it mean doing more that's expected? Is it going above and beyond, or is it literally just using, I don't know, I'm not going to put words in your mouth. We'll spend just a minute or so on this first one. Lovely. That's really helpful. Thank you so much. Lovely. Interesting. Somebody's talking about what's in their job description, because there's so much more in our job descriptions than what we actually do on a day-to-day basis. So that's really helpful. So again, Lauren, can I ask you to move us on to the next slide? So if there was something that you thought you could do differently, what has stopped you from doing it? So you're working in practice, or you're managing a team, or you're directing an organization, and you know that there's a direction of travel. What's the biggest barrier? What holds you back from doing all of these wonderful things? Okay, again, quite a lot around governance and resource, isn't there? Hoops, confidence. Okay, that's really helpful. And the last Mentimeter question, if you will, Lauren, if there's anything that could be available, if you could click your fingers and your fairy godmother could turn up with the something that could help you to make the most of your potential in your role and enable you to work at the top of your license, what would that something be? Is it more training? Is it access to a particular something? Interesting about that more non-clinical times. This is about job planning and sort of having that split that allows us to sort of dedicate time and resources, time to build confidence and skills. Really lovely. Thank you so much, everybody, for your engagement. So please remember, links are going to continue to be open, but what I don't want to do is I don't want to encroach on Lisa's time any longer. So in the last few minutes, Lisa, I would like to invite you in to help us with closing our session today.
So diolch Wendy a prynhawn da pawb. Diolch am y gwahoddiad. Good afternoon Ati, and thank you Wendy Ati for the invitation, and it's great to see what Ati have you got Ati today. You've actually had lots of food for thought really, and Ati this has been really inspirational. So as you can see, what we've described to you today is the relationship between the Allied Health Professional Framework Programme and HEIW offers a unique opportunity to coordinate solutions to some of the challenges to transformation which need to be addressed at a national level because they affect our multi-professional workforce, they have an impact across the whole health and care system, and more importantly, as you'd expect me to say, is that it has an impact on the population of Wales. So from a clinical perspective, what we've heard today is all allied health professionals are autonomous practitioners. They have the responsibility for the quality and safety of their own practice. This means not just doing what has always been done, but looking for opportunities to help allied health professionals and others to understand actually what their practice is and how it actually evolved. We recognise that this is a real challenge at the moment. We know that allied health professionals have been some of our most enthusiastic adopters of remote consultation models, and Ruth has described that in actually sort of a multitude of arenas. We've also seen that allied health professionals step into non-traditional roles. Look how they've actually played a major part in the vaccination programme over the last 2 years. Well, how did we actually think that that could happen 2 years ago? What a great opportunity, what great camaraderie and great interprofessional working has happened. So we do appreciate, and everybody's reflected on this, that over the last 2 years, many of our professionals have worked not only under the pressures of the day job, but have also lived with and managed the challenge posed by the pandemic and all that it comes with it. On a personal level, it's affected every single one of us on our workforce and in our day-to-day life. So we actually also know that allied health professions have a reputation of being innovative, music to my ears, they're adaptable, they embrace change and actually encourage transformation. Because what they want to do is pass on the benefits of the new ways of working to the people who use their service. But more importantly, it's describing how these can actually pass on as well and work in a multi-professional way with other colleagues in the health and care system. Sometimes it's easier to think the same thoughts and do the same things because they're safe, okay? But really, let's grasp this opportunity. We've actually got a new innovation now to do things differently. We've got actually a programme of work and a framework which is actually going to expand this and really open that opportunity up to us. What we've heard today from Julie is there's more national AHP leadership across Wales now than ever before. So as Julie actually encouraged you all, take advantage of those because these are the roles that have been placed in post to help shape the future. I honestly believe personally everybody's a leader. So I'm not just talking about professionals. I think everybody, if you think of actually how you care for individuals on a day-to-day basis, you are instrumental in starting to lead actually that individual and work with them in order to enhance their actually life as well. There's many changes which will facilitate transformation, which cannot be made by national organisations. We've heard about the national picture, but guess what? there's a lot that you can do from a local perspective. So basically, actually, there's lots done, as you say, nationally, programs, leaders, but really, actually, it's down to you as individuals and the employing organisations that you work in that can really bring about that change. Personally, I always say we can have a lot of mandates, we can have a lot of policies, but the true test is, does it work on the ground and does it deliver that care that we actually need? Some are delivered actually by line managers, and that's actually why we want to sort of look at team leaders. So there you are in that management role, in that team leadership role, and you've got a part to play. There's also others actually in advanced roles, and it's great to see that we've actually got consultant practitioners in AHPs as well. And Ruth is so proud to have a director of actually sort of AHPs actually in the paramedic workforce. It is a first for Wales. So there's a small action that we can all do. And this is actually why actually my sort of phrase, my sort of title today is a call to action. Galwad I weithredu. That's actually what that means. In other words, everybody must actually sort of look today and say, what have we taken away from these events? And what can we do differently? Because collectively, we can do such a lot. You may be a support worker. You might be a student. You could be a new graduate. You can make a big difference. And that's the key message that I actually want you all to take away from today. But we actually want to remind you that actually in doing that, we need to do it compassionately and kindly. It's a tough world out there at the moment, but actually we need to show that compassion towards each other. That will actually help us all to grow. It will actually also help us actually to sort of enable others. And I actually have 3 great words that I use very often. Wendy will know this. It's about encouraging others, enabling others, and empowering others to do just these things actually in a different way. So Wendy's actually taken you through a few steps today actually in terms of using the Mentimeter and the Jamboard, which is an exciting new way of doing things. And we will be sharing those with you. But what I want you to do in the next few minutes, and this is for you to take this on board personally and take this action that I'm asking you to do. I'd like to invite you to reflect on what you've actually heard today and what you've done today, because you've participated as well as actually heard. And I want you to make a contribution to the priorities that we've discussed. So write down one action that can be done by you in the next 24 hours. What can you change in order to move this actually agenda forward? And then actually sort of taking a little bit longer, what can you do over the next month? And this might not be just you personally, but how can you influence? Can you enable? Can you empower? And can you encourage others to drive actually the improvement in the services that we deliver to our population? And then on a more strategic and a longer look and an aim, what can you do over the next year? We all reflect on our practice. We all revalidate actually and look at actually what we need to do differently. So this is your chance to do it. Write it down. Write your own objectives for 1 day, 1 month and 1 year. If you'd like the assistance with any of this signposting and finding out about anything that we've discussed today, please share your actions. In other words, take back what you've heard today, take it back into your workforce, share it, because there are others in there that might not be able to actually access, but tell them about these innovations. The 13 days is all yours. Diolch pawb. Thank you, everyone. I think it's been an absolutely exciting day. I've got my sort of calls to action to write out too, so please make sure you do yours as well. Thank you, Wendy, and over to you. I hope I was actually short and sweet.
Perfect, Lisa. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the sessions. Please feel free to drop in, drop out, and keep an eye on the website. There's always going to be content coming. We look forward to seeing you at another session in future. Take care.